Hello, hello. Welcome to it's been a while since I've done one of these free Ask the Experts here in my platform, in my Stop Parenting Alone platform. Welcome to everyone that's joining. I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you signed up. Thank you, Solange. Thank you. Yes, I cut off all my hair. So thanks for the sweet message. So I always like to start off by launching a poll. I want to know how old your kiddos are, so I get a sense of who's in the room, and I get a sense to kind of how to gear my explanations. For those of you that are new and haven't been to one of these and don't know why in the world you should listen to me, well, here's why. My name is Lina Acosta Sandaal, and I am the owner and founder of Stop Parenting Alone. Stop Parenting Alone is a parenting consultation and social emotional learning consultation program that I run. I work with parents, I work with schools, teachers, directors, all to be able to share information about normative child development, and most importantly, social emotional development, which we don't speak a lot about. You know, a lot of people believe that, you know, impulse control just happens, but actually impulse control develops in experiences just as much as walking develops in, just as much as walking develops when we let children, pull up and we let children, do the things that they do so that they can learn to, from tummy time to crawling to pulling up to walking. That's the same with impulse control, with delay of gratification, with being able to manage their emotions, all of the above. So the way that this works is that I will talk at you. I will show you a slide. I will talk to you about, just general things, like things that I want you to know about as it pertains to your children and the most frequently asked questions of parents. And then I will open it up for you guys to ask me questions. Now, while I am presenting, you can type in your question in the Q&A box, in the chat box, or when I finally say, all right, guys, it's time for questions, you could also raise your hand, and then I will allow you to speak. It's a webinar, so there's no video, so you don't have to worry what you look like. I'll never see you, but I can hear your voice if you raise your hand and I ask you to unmute. So somebody put in the chat that they have a 14-year-old. I usually have a 15 plus in the poll, but I don't today. That was odd. So I see that there are different, most of you, I have the full gamut, the full range. 40% of you have children between 2 and 3. By the way, I always expect lots of parents of 2, 3, and 4-year-olds to come to my my Ask the Expert time. You know why? Because in that age group, it's in the social emotional world, it's 3 major tantrums per hour and 1 minor conflict every 3 minutes. Perfectly normal. The other 40% is for children between 8 and 10. That one seems interesting that you guys are here, but usually in that age group, what you're dealing with is kind of like their social world, learning how to manage responsibility. So that makes sense that the other big chunk of parents here today is between 8 and 10. And then I have the 14 and the 10-year-olds, which is, 10-year-olds, 10, 11, 12 is like, the preteen years, and then 12 and up is the adolescent years that are split up into middle school and high school. So let me get started right away so I can get to your questions quickly. Thank you for letting me know the age of your little people. And so let's start by me just kind of sharing the basics, right? The basics. And, these are usually the topics of questions for parents. So I'm going to go down these little kind of bullet points and just kind of give you the quick and dirty about, things that I really want you to think about. I'm going to do it in a general way. We don't have a lot of time, but just things that you need to think about. So the frequently asked questions of parents fall under one of these categories. So I'm assuming that all of you here are falling under one of these categories. And then there's, so let me give you some feedback around this and why it's so common right now. Sleep, helping a child go potty in the potty, and feeding are all biorhythms. They are physical biorhythms, meaning that the brain and the body make up the scheduling of this. So this idea that you can sleep train and potty train and that it's going to be from Friday to Sunday. No, it's a body rhythm process, right? So when it's a body rhythm process, the most important way to manage sleep, the potty, and feeding is to create a routine, a pattern, and a schedule, right? If you're, for those of you that have children under 5, your children waking up once or twice a night is normal, and they actually have wakeful times throughout early childhood, especially when there is a burst in something else that is developing. When there's a burst in walking, they wake up in the middle of the night. When there's a burst in language, they wake up in the middle of the night. When there's a burst in memory, which happens at 4 years old, they wake up in the middle of the night. So what needs to happen when you have a sleep problem is less about telling them that they have to stay in bed and more how you respond in the middle of the night, right? Because how you respond is what makes or breaks that. So don't, as it pertains to sleeping and wakeful nights, don't be a slot machine. Now, what do I mean by that? A slot machine, we play the slots in Las Vegas and in casinos because sometimes we win and sometimes we lose, right? So we keep trying because we want to get the pleasure that we need. So if you respond completely different to your child every time they wake up, sometimes you put them in your bed, sometimes you don't, sometimes you scream, sometimes you hold them, the child is going to keep pushing for the drop-down menu option that they need and enjoy. So do I have an opinion whether or not you should hold them to sleep? No, as long as you're willing to do that every single time that they wake up. Do I have an opinion whether or not they should sleep in your bed? No, as long as you're okay with, and they're not under 1, under 1, we don't want them in your bed. They can be in the room near you, but not in your bed because of SIDS. But 1 and older, if you put them in your bed, then put them in your bed every single time, or don't. And then you have to kind of walk them back. So it's one of those 1,082 reasons why parenting is so difficult. When children are waking up in the middle of the night, you are sleep deprived and it's hard for you to think. But at the end of the day, sleep problems are really an adjustment of the adult more so than the child, and an adjustment of how you are responding and making sure that it's consistent. Now, the potty process starts somewhere around 2 and somewhere around 6 years old. Why 6 years old? Because nighttime bedwetting, we don't really think much of it, if it happens sporadically, all the way to their 6th year. After the 6th year, wetting the bed or having potty accidents, that's when we kind of look at the physical aspects to it. But the potty process has a 1, 2, 3, right? And I know that a lot of 40% of you were between 2 and 3, so you're smack in the middle of that, right? The first part of the potty process, you play potty, right? Books, TV shows, bringing them to the potty with you when you go to the potty. They are pretending to go potty, and it's not necessarily time to take off the diaper. Level 2 is putting the potty into your routine. No asking, do you need to go? No taking them every 45 minutes or every hour. Nobody pees and poos every hour. Nobody, no human being on earth pees and poos every hour, right? So you don't have to take them every hour, but you do have to put it in the routine. So level number 2, which a lot of you that have 2 and 3-year-olds, that's exactly where you're at. And actually that's where your teacher at school is at, right? Your teacher is taking the classroom to the potty at a particular time in the routine. So make sure that you take your child with the same hourly intervals as the preschool, and your child will have successes, and then they will be motivated to go on their own. The hardest part of going to the potty is stopping the pleasure that's in front of me when I feel the sensation in my body. Now, if you've made it to 5, 6, 7, 8, and your child is still having accidents and your child is still having a hard time going to the potty, you know, this is when we really want to know if there is something medical happening. Sometimes when children have a lot of potty accidents, is that there is an issue with the large intestine, and you know, it has been impacted, or they're holding poo, or there's all sorts of things. So if they're 5, 7, 8, 9, and they're still having as many accidents as they had in early childhood, if they're acting still like 2 or 3, that's a time to really have a medical checkup. Feeding. A lot of you are not going to like what I'm about to say, but it's what we know based on the research done to manage and help people with disordered eating and or eating disorders, right? Disordered eating is like the precursor of an eating disorder. So what do we know that helps children learn how to eat? The parent says what, when, where, and the child decides if they eat and how much they eat. Of the what, when, where, the when is what's most important. You should offer your children food every 2.5 to 3 hours. The way that that works out is breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner. Now, those of you that have children in school, to figure out your when, just go do the math, you know, do the hours backwards from the lunch that they have at school, right? So that you get your when correctly, right? So let's say they always eat lunch from Monday through Friday at, you know, 11:45 at school, then go backwards 3 hours. 10, 9, 8:45, they should have a snack. Are they at school? Are they in your car because you're dropping them off, right? And then go backwards again. 8, 7, 6, they should have some sort of breakfast, and don't offer anything in between. What a lot of people are doing is that you get scared because your child, in their choice of if they eat or how much they eat, didn't eat all of their breakfast. So you start offering them snacks in between the 2.5 to 3 hours. Well, guess what? When that lunchtime comes, they're not hungry, because so the when is every 2.5 hours, and the what you choose. You choose what you put on that plate, and they choose whether they try it or they eat it or not. But no power struggle, no one more bite, no, I'll give you a cookie if you finish eating, none of that. Just leave them alone. And in the what, make sure that your portions are appropriate. So many times we give 3, 4, 5, and 6-year-old these ginormous portions, and we imagine that they're not eating, but they actually are. So the portions are important. For those of you that signed up today and you gave us your email to get on this Zoom, I'll send a little kind of like picture that I have of like portions for early childhood, and you know, the correct portion for your children. So that's what's most important about feeding, and that should take care of most of it. So that's important. Now, a lot of you guys are going to ask me questions about discipline. I'm going to drink something. There's a really unfounded idea that children have to feel bad to learn a lesson, that children have to have a consequence and feel like, you know, like they have to be punished to learn how to do something. And that couldn't be further from the truth as it pertains to brain science. Brain science let us know that the nervous system, right, has like 3 phases. Sometimes we are calm and we can use our prefrontal cortex, the area of our brain that helps us think, right? And, you know, most of the time that's where we learn. That's how we can remember rules. That's how we can remember what to do next. That's what, you know, so that's important, right? But there's other two ways that the nervous system responds, right? Which is with anxious energy, like looking for danger, fight, flight, freeze, or with kind of like a shutdown, lack of energy. And what we want is for our nervous system to have flexibility between these 3 things. Throughout the day, sometimes you are looking out for danger. Sometimes you are kind of not neutral, but pretty calm and able to kind of be logical and think. And sometimes you're completely depleted and out of energy. And that is true for your children too, right? So the number one reason why they won't listen the first time, especially those of you that have children under 10, and there were a lot of people that have children under 10, is for them to listen the first time, they have to have 3 social emotional skills. 1, being able to manage their emotions and how they flood up, right? How, you know, being able to manage frustration, disappointment, sadness, big emotion like silly and excited, you know, being able to feel it and then bring it back down. Think about it. How many of you feel frustration and bring it back down without co-regulating, meaning without talking to somebody else? How many of you feel sadness and can feel good again without having another person to talk that through? You're asking your children to do that, to listen to your rule, to stop playing, you know, Minecraft, to go eat, or to stop making the puzzle, to go take a bath, right? So that's a skill that they have to be able to stop and listen to you the first time. 2, they have to be able to delay gratification, meaning kind of like stop the pleasure of whatever they're doing and being okay with it. You know, how many of us adults on this call can get through a day without first having our coffee, right? That's pleasure. And we get through the rough things of getting the kids up and out of the house by serving ourselves coffee. There's tons of mommy memes and jokes all about that. But then we're asking our babies to do that on their own and just suck it up and do it, right? So again, a lot of the reason why they are not listening is not because they're manipulating you. It's not because they're oppositional. It's not because they hate you. It's not because they want you to feel bad and uncomfortable. It's because they cannot by themselves be okay with the frustration of stopping their pleasure and moving on and controlling their impulses. You know, if you have a child under 5, they definitely can't do it alone ever. If you have children, these 3 things, right? Impulse control, delay of gratification, and emotional regulation, being able to feel a feeling, tolerate a feeling, and feel better about it, right? If you have children between the ages of 5 and 8, they're in the tummy time of those 3 skills, right? If you have children between 8.5 and 12, they're in the pulling up phase of being able to manage those 3 skills. And if you're in adolescence and they're, you know, developing normally, they're already walking, but every once in a while they fall, right? Because these are social emotional skills that then create self-awareness, self-management, and social awareness. So the number one thing that I want you guys to think about is that if your child doesn't listen the first time and they're under 5, they're normal. If your child doesn't listen listens, but goes, oh, I hate this, why? And they're under 8, they're normal. If your child rolls their eyes, but walks stomping and slams the door, but they're listening to your rule and they're between 8 and 12 or 12 and over, they're normal. That's how they're managing the feelings that bubble up from your boundary. Also, a lot of you make this mistake. You go, can we put on our shoes to your little ones? And when your little one goes, no, you think like they're being sassy and disrespectful. But hi, you asked them a yes or no question. Can you put on the shoes? Are we ready to have dinner? Right? Stop that. It's time to put on your shoes. It's time to. And then when they have the feeling response of like, oh, I don't want shoes. Oh, you're very, very sad. We're gonna wait. I'm gonna help you. And then you grab them and they scream bloody murder, and then you go about your day. Right? That's for the little ones, right? So again, a lot of you make the mistakes of asking yes or no questions, or only using your voice for the prompt. If any of you have children under 8 and you're screaming from the kitchen 10 times that it's time for dinner, and you have not walked over to where they are to tell them, hey, it's time, then the mistake is yours. I know, I'm sorry. Because it's a 1, 2, 3. 1, hey, time for dinner. 2, walk over to them. Pause, look at what they're doing. Name what they're doing. Ah, Susana, you didn't listen to mommy because you're putting the clothes on back to the Barbie. Okay, I'm gonna help you with one of the Barbies to put this back, and then we're gonna stop because it's time for dinner. Right now, your child feels seen. Now your child feels understood. Now your child knows that, that they're finishing up putting the clothes on the Barbie, right? So, but you're there physically with them, right? And then 3, okay, you're showing me that you're having a hard time, so I'm taking all these Barbies and I'm taking them away. Yes, that's going to make your child go, but that's the feeling attached to stopping and following the boundary. If any of you are just avoiding that crying part or the feeling part, or you're screaming at the feeling part and telling them that's enough, again, the mistake is yours, not theirs. They're just showing you where they are in emotional regulation, right? Every single rule gives me an emotional experience. I can, like, when I drive the speed limit, I have an emotional experience, especially if I'm late. If I break the speed limit, it's my fault that I broke the rule. And it's because I didn't tolerate my feeling of scared and stressed because I'm trying to speed. So again, your children's emotional responses doesn't mean that your boundaries are broken. And social concerns and school. It's March. I'm going to jump to school. It's March. If your teachers are telling you that they're concerned, please listen. Please follow their lead. If they're telling you that your child needs a psychoeducational, or they're telling you, hey, we're seeing this in the classroom and we don't know why, and it's already March, and they're doing what they were doing back in September. This is, no matter what age they are, they're not going to outgrow it. It is important to follow the lead of the school and seek assistance and read more about it. When a child is having difficult behavior, there's always a reason for it. And it's not just because they choose to. No, if they're choosing to, it's a strategy of survival. It's a strategy of seeking safety. It's a strategy to get out from, feeling in danger from their nervous system, or feeling completely depleted from their nervous system. So if it's March and there's been no change and your school is asking you to do more, please listen. It's really important. So that's a thing. Now, social, your children throughout preschool, elementary, middle school, high school are constantly learning in the social emotional world how to be a friend, how to be with another. My rule there, and the rule that I want you to keep in mind, is that don't ever turn any child, yours or somebody else's child, into a victim or a perpetrator. Unfortunately, the bully campaign has made us focus on possible danger, rather than expanding and wondering, why is this person making this choice of continually and repetitively kind of making fun of somebody else, right? But if we get curious about why somebody else is acting the way they're acting, or if we get curious about why somebody is acting, why your child is acting like a bully, then we can find a solution, and then the behavior starts to make sense. So when, as it pertains to social concerns, oh, that she is just being mean. No. What are the choices for your child when somebody responds to them in a way that they feel hurt? Can they say no? Can they walk away? Can they ask for assistance? Don't tell them she's being mean and she's being cruel and that's a bully, and stay away from them, because now your child is a victim and they don't have a choice. And then we create oppression for them because now they start defending. So be mindful of that as well. All right, so that puts me at 30 minutes in. I am now going to stop sharing the screen and get into the questions that everybody has put into our little chat. Remember, you can raise your hand if you want me to come to you to answer your question, or you can put it in the Q&A or the chat. So somebody asks, we have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old. We are having a hard time with them following their routine or following directions. Also, our 4-year-old is having a hard time with falling asleep at night and constantly says that she is really scared. Okay, so these are 2 questions on the floor. So again, if your children are having a hard time following their routine, be mindful, be very, very careful, and because they're in that age group where they need a voice prompt. Okay, guys, it's time to stop playing. We're gonna go take a bath. Wait, nobody moves. Get close to them, put your hand on them. Hey, it's time to stop. Hey, it's time to stop. I'm gonna pick up the puzzles. You pick up the blocks, and then start picking up the puzzles. Right? And help them. If they're having a hard time brushing their teeth, wow, you're having a hard time brushing your teeth. Be there physically. Why do you need to be there physically? When we do responsibility, when any human being does responsibility, they have to tolerate frustration and disappointment, right? Again, all of us wake up Monday morning, we take a deep breath, we're tolerating the frustration of like having to move quickly to get everybody to school and move forward, right? So you have to make sure, so children use our nervous system and us and our mood and how we are to anchor into being able to do this difficult thing, right? So if you're screaming at them or moving them quickly or telling them, okay, let's go, come on, when they start feeling that frustration, just like when they were infants, we had to hold them so that they could fall asleep, right? When you're in the bathroom with them going, okay, guys, let's put a brush. I'm going to do my brush too. When you're brushing with them, or when you're near them in their bedroom, when they're putting on their school uniform, you're giving them that place of like, I know this is hard to do. You're dealing with what it means to be responsible. You're dealing with frustration. So I want you to add that to the routine. You standing there, being nearby, and saying, yes, this is hard, but we can get through it, right? And 4-year-olds telling you that she's scared. Okay. If you don't follow me on Instagram, please do. Last week, I put a 4-minute video on talking to children about, why they get scared at night. Now, the video that I posted, it's kind of like a little snippet from my subscription service that I have, that I do online parenting subscription for parents. And, I just kind of gave you a little tiny snippet of me talking to a child about being scared at night. Now, it's not for a 4-year-old, right? It's more for like 6, 7, 8. However, you watch it and you will see how I explain it. And then you could figure out how to explain it to your 4-year-old. But 4-year-olds have fears at night because of their sensory system, right? At night, we lose our sense of sight. So our tactile sense, our sound, our you know, our taste gets heightened, right? And then any little thing that's extra, it's kind of like spidey sense, kind of overstimulates them. And then 4-year-olds, remember that I said in the beginning about sleep, have an increase in memory. So any image that she has seen in you know, that your child has seen, like in the last 6 or 3 or 4 months, that it pertains to anything that's fearful, it kind of pops into her mind, because her brain is like, I don't have your sense of sight, so I'm going to show you the scariest thing that you could think of so that you could be careful. Right? So for little ones that are telling you that they're scared, add to your routine turning off the lights and walking around with your cell phone and going, okay, you hold them and you go, what looks scary in your room, and having them point, and then lighting it and going, oh yeah, without my phone, it looks like a dragon, you know. So walk them through and add to the routine, kind of walking them through fear. Also, when they're laying down in the bed, telling them, okay, let's talk to your brain and tell your brain to stop scaring you, that it's bedtime, and that let's think of all the beautiful images that you can think of, so that you can have a beautiful dream, right? So if she likes unicorns, oh, there's a unicorn. So it's kind of like a meditation visualization of kind of like doing that. And that can be helpful at bedtime. So I hope that is helpful. 1, 2, 3. You mentioned 1, 2, 3. What's the third step? Oh, yes. Okay. So first, we use our voice to tell them what is. We use our voice. Hey, it's time to clean up. 2, we do voice and physical proximity. We get nearby, we touch them, and we go, hey, it's time to clean up. And 3rd, we say, oh, you're showing me that you're having a hard time, so then now we help them. So we grab them and put them in the car. We grab them and take them to the bath. You know, this is different for older kids, but that's the 3rd. We help them. We do it with them and for them. So I hope that is helpful. Okay, my 6-year-old still wears a diaper every night. Should I be concerned? I tried taking it off, but he can't hold it all night. I take him to the bathroom before bedtime. You know, so at 6, bedwetting is not as common, and it is. So the first thing to do is to manage the liquids. You know, manage the liquids and wonder, you know, how much liquids are they having before bedtime. Right. So again, bedwetting, you know, at 6, we want it to start decreasing. So if your child is peeing every single night and they're still bedwetting between 6 and 7, it's the first thing to change is the liquid intake before bedtime. And to talk to your pediatrician about if you went to the 6-year-old pediatrician visit and they're perfectly healthy, you know, it's just keeping an eye out. And then also this is also like an opportunity to make sure that they're not having too much liquid in the middle of the night, because before they go to bed, because that's what makes them kind of have the accident. So but it takes time. So at 6, I want you to verify how many ounces of water and liquid are they having. And usually the recommendation is like no liquids, you know, an hour before bed. So if he goes to bed at 8:30, you know, 7:30, that's it, no more liquid. And then also talking to the brain and saying, brain, let's talk to bladder, let's talk to brain. At nighttime, we don't use, you know, it's just kind of like repeating and reminding. So that's important. Okay, here's the other question. My child just turned 10. She has been randomly telling me she has been feeling sad and doesn't know why. I find I have heard it too often lately, 3 times in a month or so. So I was wondering if I should consider it's puberty. She is not showing any physical signs of development yet, or if I should look for other signs or not worry about it. We chat at night at times, and she has always been open, but now she mentions she is sad and she doesn't know why. And I tell her it's a big feeling to deal with, and I don't know where to go from there. Okay, so estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. are the sex hormones, and they begin to kind of, increase in their levels in our system, in puberty age. As it pertains to girls, the estrogen and the progesterone level, that creates menstruating, that creates the blossoming of the boobs, that creates the body smell. So sometimes parents tell me, oh, there isn't any changes in their body, but like the first thing that changes is that they smell. all of a sudden they have body odor. So that's kind of like a one of many signs of puberty. So and also when estrogen and progesterone kind of hits the body for girls, the cycling of, like, the PMS, that we as, those of us that have ovaries, and that, that our levels shift and change. It's the mood swings and that estrogen and progesterone creates in our brain happen before the blood. And sometimes happen before the boobs. So my recommendation to you is take the next 2 months and map it. And if there's a pattern where it's like every 20 days, so it could be the pattern with estrogen and progesterone is that estrogen and progesterone spike or decrease when the woman ovulates, or when the person ovulates or menstruates. But again, that cycle of increase and decrease of estrogen and progesterone happens before kind of like the menses, the actual blood. So she could have that mood shift every 15 days, or she can have that mood switch every 28 to 30 days. Because for some of us, that have high peaks of estrogen and progesterone and low peaks of estrogen and progesterone, that could either happen when we're ovulating or right before we menstruate. So spend two months mapping it out, seeing, is it every 15 days, is it every 28, every 27 to 30 days, and then tell her, oh, seems like it's your body. And then it becomes an opportunity. If you see the cycling, then it becomes an opportunity of to talk to her about the upcoming menstruation. By the way, those of you that have girls, please, at 9, it's the appropriate time to start talking to them about their changes in the upcoming changes in their body. For boys, I would say start at 9 also, because they need to know about menstruating girls. But if you want to wait, for boys, it's anywhere between 10 and 11. And in this age group, between 9 and 12, it's talking about the what's coming up in puberty. For girls, we talk about menstruation, we talk about breasts, we talk about the mood shifting. For boys, we talk about nighttime ejaculation, early morning, when their penis gets excited, either in the early morning or at random moments in the daytime, because that's something that happens to boys during puberty, all of it, and it's kind of like planning with them, well, what are you going to do if all of a sudden you have an erection in the classroom, right? So it's that's horrible for a boy, and telling them that their voice is going to change, telling them that their scrotum is going to drop, there's a lot of things. So this, between 8 and 12, please have that conversation with them. I rather you have that conversation with them than they Google it, because when you Google sex, what's at the top of the list? Usually Pornhub. Statistically, in the United States, children 10 years old is the first time that they see pornography by mistake, because they're Googling sex, or they're Googling penis, or they're Googling vagina, or they're Googling menstruation, because you haven't talked to them about it, and they're wondering about it, and they're noticing their shifts. So don't ignore, put it in the calendar, notice if there's a cycle, talk to her about it. Now, another reason she may be feeling sad, back to this idea of the nervous system. We fluidly go up and down being, being in a phase of like, thinking and being able to kind of really be logical, being looking for danger and being in fight, flight, freeze, and being kind of like low mood and low energy. Your daughter may be feeling that it's called dorsal, that dorsal part of our nervous system, which we all feel. All of us somewhere between 3 and 8 have a moment of like, whew, where our nervous system drops, right? Between 3 and 8, don't do any like big important meetings, answer email, do silly things, file, because between 3 and 7, all of our brains go, whew, right? For some children, they experience that like drop in energy as sadness. So start talking to her about her body, because she may be thinking that when she gets low energy, she's sad. So that may also be kind of like a mislabeling of what she's feeling in her body. So there you go. Okay, so let's see. My son is 9 and was recently diagnosed with ADHD. Okay, can you please shed some light on the subject if you have time? Do you have a behavior therapist that has experience with ADHD? He has inattentive type. Unfortunately, that is what I do in a parenting consult, where I spend an hour and a half just talking to you, talking to your child, not to your child, talking to you, talking about your child, understanding, how their ADHD is presenting, right? And ADHD, autism, anxiety is stigmatized in our community in a horrible way, and that's stupid, for lack of a better word. I can't think of a better word. But it's the way that I want you to think about it is that the cognition, the way that he thinks and understands and manages his nervous system and his energy and mood is just different than the typical person, right? So the first thing I want you to think about is that as long as we get him in the right school setting, that's very important. So if he's in a public school, immediately get a individualized education plan like yesterday. Immediately, if you're in a public school. If you're in a private school, if they have a program where they assist their students, and some schools do, a lot of them do, a lot of them have programs, put them in the program. Don't leave them in the general population, because they're going to be told that they're bad or oppositional or lazy or disorganized. And no, that's like asking me to blow dry my hair every single day so it's straight. That's a lot of work, and I don't have to, and neither does your son. So if you're in a private school, find out what accommodations they're going to do for ADHD. And if they don't do any accommodations, it's important to find the correct school setting for them. Immediately right now, it's less about a behavioral therapist and more about an executive functioning coach. So beyond book smart can help with the organizational and the planning skills and the executive functioning skills. That's incredibly important. Whomever did the psychological eval, do they have an educational therapist? Do they have a person that works with them with ADHD? Please go back to the person that did the evaluation. And if they don't have somebody, then there's a place called, there's 2 places, Light Up Learning and My Optimal Child. Both of these places can help you think and plan and find, because at the end of the day, you are now your child's like #1 advocate, because the world doesn't want to teach them because they're lazy, not because of him. They're lazy, the adult, right? So it's like, Mom, he has to plan and organize. No, we have to help him in a system. So that's very important. And then there's an online community. It's called Impact parents impact, you could put ADHD impact parents. I always get it wrong, but Google it, ADHD impact parenting, and they have tons of programs and tons of information. So that's one way to start. And if you want very, 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 very specific individualized care, give my office a call and we could do an hour and a half conference for that. Okay, so I'm almost running out of time. So the question is, oh, I have a lot of 3-year-old questions. Okay, so by the way, those of you that have tons of 3-year-old questions, just because I'm probably not going to get to all of them and I don't want to disappoint, depending on, you know, if you are at KLA, Pineview, you know, make sure that you go to these that I do for the school. So make sure that you go to the Ask the Expert ones if you're at the preschool, because I do them monthly for those preschools. And then I just talk about the preschoolers because it's a big deal. So those of you that have 2- and 3-year-olds, and, you know, one question here is, my 3-year-old is starting to kick and scream when he is told no. He suddenly started acting out with tantrums when a rule is enforced. How do we help him learn a different way to react? No, it's not about, that's the immature emotional response to your boundary. So your son is not doing anything wrong or abnormal. 3 major tantrums per hour, and that's what it looks like. So the way to help him is to say, you are so frustrated and angry. Mama's going to breathe and calm her body. And then be quiet. Look at the clock. 9 to 20 minutes. He will be like, trying to grab what you took from him, trying to take the remote control, not going, but 9 to 20 minutes. So from now until he's 4, add 15 minutes to all your transitions, but not a single word. Every time you speak, you make the brain deal with that dysregulation of emotion because he had to follow the rule, as well as managing language, your language. So most people make tantrums worse because they're speaking to them, right? So silence. Eventually, most 2-, 3-, and 4-year-olds will go, okay, that's when we pick them up and we say, I know it's hard to take a bath every day, but that's what we're doing. And you are going to do this pattern, naming what they're feeling, staying quiet, calming down your nervous system, waiting 9 to 20 minutes for them to stop screaming and crying, right? And then when they ask for the hug, you hug them. And then that's when you give them the rule. You're going to do that at least 882 times until he's 4.5. Consistency is key in early childhood. And if you want a book, The Emotional Life of the Toddler, Lieberman, Emotional Life of the Toddler. Lieberman is what I want you to get. And also, if you want, join online parenting support, which is my online subscription. So daily, you can ask me a question in the private Facebook group, and within 48 hours, I will answer your particular question about what particularly is happening for your 3-year-old. And on Tuesdays, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I do this at different hours to answer parents' questions directly. So you may, I love it when parents of young children join online parenting support, because then you don't make the same mistakes that a lot of people make. So the good news is that you're getting from me, it's perfectly normal. The bad news is that you are dealing with it, and it feels horrible when a little person drops to their ground and is crying. And go to my blog, go to search, put tantrums, and tons of things will come up. Go to my blog, go to search, put behavior, and tons of blogs will come up. So in case you don't want to, you just need, free information, it's always there. Okay. So let's see. Okay. Being there physically is needed when they are 8. not for 100% of the things, but the things that they have a hard time with, so when they're following the routine and you tell them, okay, I'm going to stand here until I see you put on your skirt. I know it's hard. I know that it's hard to stop playing and put on your uniform. Yeah. If they're having a hard time and they're showing you that they're having a hard time every single day, it's because they're managing frustration and disappointment. They're managing kind of like staying on task. So being nearby or being within eyeshot, even if they're 8, that's perfectly fine. We sometimes we expect too much from our kids. So yes, be nearby, especially if something that they repetitively, don't follow the rule. Okay, so there's another question here. When you talk to girls about menstruation, do we go all the way into the baby talk too? No, you don't have to. Only if they ask you. So between 9 and 11, we talk about the puberty and the physical changes of puberty. And then 12 and older, you can talk about sex. And sex is not only, can you talk to them between 9 and 11 about sex? Sure, but just talk about the mechanics of it. There's an ovary, there's an egg, there's some semen. Sometimes people unite the ovary and the egg with a doctor. So you talk about IVF, and sometimes people use their bodies, and the penis goes inside of the vagina and it delivers the semen to the egg, and that's how a baby is made. And then you're done, because you're doing the physical aspect of it. 12 and older most definitely talk about sex, but also talk about romantic relationship. And explain that. Again, go to my blog, hit search, put romantic relationship, and you'll see something that I talked about. Put teens, and you'll see everything that I talk about for teens. So that is important. And that's kind of like all the information that we have. So again, I think something that I've kind of been pushing today in our talk, be clear and be mindful and be consistent. The 3 musts of parenting is routine. Is your pattern the same 6 out of 7 days, right? Consistency in how you respond. If your baby goes, no, and then sometimes you're like super sweet and you're like fun and you're like, no, what do you mean no? And you're talking and dancing and stuff. But other times you scream at them, you're not being consistent. So you either always dance and sing. I don't want you to scream, because then you're going to put their brain in high alert and then they can't listen to anything that you're saying. But most times than not, when you're overwhelmed and they're overwhelmed, just stop talking and calm your body and calm your nervous system, and they will anchor into safety and change. The children are the fish. You are the water. How's the water? Is it screaming? Is it hectic? Is it grabbing them? They can't think. They can't follow a rule if they're defending themselves from being grabbed and screamed at. So be mindful of that. That's very important. So I know a lot of the time I do these and then you guys leave with more questions and answers. So if you have more questions and answers, sign up for a parenting consultation. I spend an hour and a half with you. I talk to you, you tell me what's going on, I hear what's going on, and what ends up happening is I either say, normal development, do these things, see you later, or I say, okay, normal development, but you're responding wrong, so do this plan and I'll see you in 6 weeks. Or I say, okay, wow, that sounds like there's a delay. That sounds like there's an issue. Here are the places and the people that you should go see. This is what you're going to get from me with a parenting consultation. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. Or you can join my online parenting support subscription. What is it? Facebook group. You put your questions in, 3 o'clock in the morning, your child woke up, smacked you in the head, you don't know what to do. You ask me a question, within 48 hours, I answer your question. Two, every Tuesday and Wednesday, I have a 1 hour one of these, and I give 6 people 10 minutes. Those calls have been saved since 2016. I've been doing Zoom before the pandemic, before it was a thing, right? So your question, if it's just normative development, for sure I have answered. So you could spend you could sign up for the subscription, be on the subscription for 2 months, and you can read and listen to every single call that I've done, and all of your questions has been answered, because there's a private area in the website where I put all of that. And finally, you get 10% off everything that I do, which is actually a great discount. So think about online parenting support. You're not ready to commit, that's okay. I understand. What you can do is sign up for the email list. I mean, you did by coming to this website, so you're going to start getting information, just free information. Follow me on Instagram, Parenting Expert, and follow my work and my office at Stop Parenting Alone on Instagram. And that's it for today. This is recorded. It will be on the website in case you want to hear it again or show it to the other people that help you caregive your child, giving them information. It's going to be also blog, so you go stopparentingalone.com, blog, recorded talks, and you can actually listen to other Ask the Experts that I've done. So thanks for joining me, and until next time, bye.